The liquid in these vials is currently more precious than gold and politically more charged than dynamite. And in our winter of lockdown discontent, we can't get them fast enough in our arms. On Friday night, the bad news exploded. AstraZeneca, the British-Swedish company, informed the EU that it would only be able to deliver 31 million of the 80 million initial doses that had been bought by Brussels, a dramatic shortfall. Antiviral material is biologically grown in vats. It has to produce a certain yield to be effective. In the European production facilities, that yield was too low, hence fewer doses. It is a risk covered in the contract. AstraZeneca has acknowledged the problem and promised to fix it. As one high-level source put it today, when something goes wrong in the process, there is no margin for error. Nevertheless, the EU's boss was furious.
Europe invested billions to help develop the world's first COVID-19 vaccines. And now the companies must deliver. They must honor their obligations. Europe is determined to contribute to this global common good. But it also means business.
The EU's response was unusually aggressive, and here's why they're worried. So far, the UK has managed to vaccinate 10% of its population. The EU has managed just 2%. Anti-lockdown demonstrations in the Netherlands are a reminder that all over Europe, populations are at the end of their lockdown tether. So when vaccines are late, the member states get the blame from their voters, and the governments in turn put pressure on Brussels. The EU Commission has now hit back, threatening AstraZeneca with legal action and all vaccine manufacturers with an oversight regime.
This is not about blocking, this is about knowing what the companies are exporting or will export.
There is no vaccine against vaccine nationalism, which is why AstraZeneca made sure that most payers would be responsible for production on their turf. The EU's production of the AstraZeneca vaccine takes place in the EU, the UK's here in the UK, which means that we won't be affected by a slowdown or blockage in the production. That's why the government wants to stay aloof from this row.
I've got total confidence in our supplies. We've been over this many, many times in the last few days and hours. We've got confidence in our supply. I've seen what Commissioner Kyriakides has said. And all I would say is, obviously, we expect and hope that our EU friends will honour all contracts.
Vaccine nationalism is as toxic as vaccine envy. Just look at this recent tweet from the Tory party. In a global supply chain, today's winners can become tomorrow's losers. The Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine is produced in Belgium, and potentially the EU could try and block exports of remaining doses to the UK. But no one has suggested as such, and everyone is aware of the downward spiral that would trigger with Brexit thrown into the mix. So the message is very much this: keep calm and carry on.
And joining me now is the French MEP Véronique Trillet-Lannoy, who's a medical doctor and a member of the Parliament's Environment, Public Health and Food Safety Committee. Thank you for joining us. First of all, can I ask you, who do you blame for the EU's vaccine programme being so slow?
I don't blame anybody, because the EU vaccine programme is secure, it is safe. For the first time, the Commission is negotiating in the name of 27 states. So, of course, it takes time, and time is necessary to make sure that the vaccine is efficient and secure.
That is the problem, though, isn't it? You've got 27 states involved, and that's why the UK has been able to outpace the EU when it comes to vaccination.
Well, what we are claiming for is that contracts, engagement should be taken and followed. We have contracted with AstraZeneca a number of doses, certain prices, certain conditions of liability. The rules have to be followed. I do not care if some other countries choose an accelerated procedure and probably a higher price. But what we need is that the pharmaceutical firms should not play with the stakes like hostages and really do what they are paid for and what they have promised to do and to secure.
Are you suggesting that AstraZeneca is prioritising the UK because the UK is willing to pay a higher price?
I would like to think the opposite. The problem is that the Commission has been asking many questions to the firm, and none of the answers were really liable. There is no understandable supply chain rupture or production problems. So we have to make the hypothesis that maybe the pharmaceutical firm is prioritizing countries where the price is higher. And this is totally unfair.
Okay.
Again,
okay.
The more people will be vaccinated, the best that this pandemic will be faced.
Sure. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I just put it to you, though? Can I just put it to you that it's the Commission that's failed European citizens here by not finalising the contract with AstraZeneca?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is it not the fault of the Commission for not finalising the deal with AstraZeneca? The Commission has failed European citizens.
The deal has been completed. 3 million doses are secured for European citizens on the basis of a contract between the Commission and AstraZeneca. There is nothing to blame for.
Okay, and can I also put it to you, the EU is being accused of vaccine protectionism in a pandemic. That's something to be ashamed of, isn't it?
Well, it's a shame in every country. I mean, the problem is that we are facing a worldwide pandemic where we should really play a collective game. Instead of what, we are facing some kind of vaccine nationalism and a fight for the vaccine. I do hope that as many people in the world, including the UK, will be vaccinated, because if only a happy few are protected, then nobody is. So we really have to fight against pharmaceutical firms playing with that.
Thank you, Véronique Trillet-Lenoir. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'm also joined now by Professor David Salisbury, former Director of Immunisation at the Department of Health. Professor Salisbury, how concerned are you about vaccine supplies to the UK?
Well, I don't have the details of exactly how many doses are going to be available for distribution in the UK on a daily basis, but we've heard the reassurances that the UK supplies are indeed secure for the short term. I don't think anybody should be surprised to hear that there are problems in maintaining supply for these new vaccines, because that's always what happens in campaigns. When you scale up as fast as you possibly can, vaccines are biological products, they're difficult to make, and you never get as much as you thought you were going to get. That's the reality.
You have experience in these matters. What do you think has happened between AstraZeneca and the EU?
I don't know the detail, but it does sound as if the yields that the company has been able to get, the amount of virus that it's been able to produce and then the vaccine, is less than they were projecting. And actually, it doesn't really help to say we're going to take litigation, we're going to force companies to follow their contracts, if they can't actually manufacture the volumes. There is the bottom line. If the vaccine isn't there, shouting isn't going to get it there any faster.
Do you despair at the way in which politicians around the world have engaged in this process of vaccine nationalism?
I think it's really difficult, and I understand fully why people want to protect their own populations first, their own citizens first, and politically it's a pretty tough line to walk to say we're not going to vaccinate you as fast as we could because we're going to give our vaccine to other people. But the reality, as you've already heard, is that if everybody doesn't protect their citizens, this virus will continue to circulate for longer. And the longer it circulates, the more risk we all face in the long term. So, of course, there is an interest in our own citizens, but there is also a very powerful reason for making vaccines available as widely as we possibly can.
Yeah. Can I ask you quickly about the Pfizer vaccine? The British Medical Association has expressed concern with the UK's policy of keeping the first dose and the second dose 12 weeks apart when the trial was conducted on 3 weeks. The Chief Medical Officer for England has defended that view. What's your opinion?
Well, I don't really understand the BMA's position on this, because the maths is so simple. You know, if you have 1 million people and you give them 2 doses, you protect 950,000 of them. And if you have 2 million people and you give them 1 dose, even if the vaccine was only 60% efficacious, that's 1.2 million. It's so straightforward that the more people we can protect in the short term, the fewer deaths that we will see.
Okay.
I'm a strong supporter of this delayed second dose.
Thank you. That was very clear, Professor Salisbury. Thanks for joining us.